Hi guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another brand new Mattel Jurassic World release, and yes, it is another epic attack release, and this time we have the Jurassic Park 3 male Velociraptor. Now, these figures, I recently reviewed the Carnotaurus. I thought the Carnotaurus was awesome, but these figures seem to be, a little on the disliked side of things as far as a large majority of collectors go. I have not heard very many people say positive things about these, and I actually think they look pretty cool to an extent. I think this one is definitely the better of the two of these smaller ones. There's this and a Dilophosaurus, which I'll also have up for review soon, but I think the JP3 Velociraptor actually looks really nice. I think the head sculpt looks very nice, and definitely one of the best Jurassic Park 3 head sculpts that we've seen so far. The body does appear a little bit chunkier than a lot of raptors, but I don't really see much of a problem as far as that goes. The thing I think I say that I would probably dislike the most is the fact that the tail seems a bit shorter than the tails normally are for Mattel Raptors, but outside of that, I think it looks pretty cool, and I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Epic Damage action feature. But again, as far as the box art goes, it looks pretty much just like it did for the Carnotaurus, but obviously at a fraction of the size since it's a much smaller figure. And then here on the back, you can see again the damage that we have going on there. Of course, the figure itself, and then a shot there, kind of a sneak peek of the upcoming Dilophosaurus. So let's go ahead and pop it out of the box and check it out. So here is our Velociraptor. Now, after taking it out of the box, there is one thing that I'm not a big fan of straight away. I can see outside of the fact that the tail's a bit shorter, and that is that when you turn it around, you do have an open area here right on the side for the sound effects to come through. Now, they did do a good job of kind of disguising it as like an injury, so at the same time, it doesn't look terrible, but it absolutely could have looked better. I think maybe if they had given this some sort of a lighting effect maybe on this side, it might have not been so bad visually, but again, even still, it's not terrible. But I have seen a lot of people kind of compare these to Hasbro, and I think they're a world of difference than Hasbro, way better than what Hasbro produced for the Jurassic World line. But that kind of almost feels a little Hasbro-ish to me, slightly. But as a whole, again, I still think it looks really cool, and I'm very excited to check out the actual damage aspect because I haven't done it yet, and I usually save that kind of stuff for the review itself. So what we're going to do right now is jump to a closer look and check this Raptor out overall. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Velociraptor, you can definitely see there is some really quite nice looking skin texture and scale detail present on the face of this raptor. On top of that, we also have some nice coloration as we have a yellowish tone for the lower jaw. We have a light kind of like an off-white or almost like an off-white sort of mixed with a slight yellowish tint leading up into the upper jaw. You can also see the grays of the face striping down also, and then you can see we've got a bluish tone of color there around the eye and a little bit of red there for that crest, that kind of classic GP3 style crest right there. And I think that's looking really good. Like, as far as a Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor, like a male Velociraptor color scheme goes, I think they nailed it as far as a toy form goes. And I also think, again, that the head sculpt looks pretty darn good overall as far as replicating a Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor. You can also see the nostrils are sculpted there on the tip of the snout. Nice shot there of the raptor from the front, giving you an idea of what it looks like there. Of course, we do have quills up on the top of the head, again, recreating that JP3 style look. We don't have that kind of like white spotting, or actually I should say striping, that kind of runs through the quills that you usually see on these raptors, but it still looks pretty good. Again, we have quite a bit of color variation elsewhere for the face, so I'm not upset about that. We do have an articulated jaw, and what's fun is, again, it's just a straight-up articulated jaw for the raptor. No gimmick as far as that goes. You can see the inside of the mouth has a nice realistic tone of color. Nope, just the gray for the upper side, but the lower part here, the tongue, the kind of inside running along the gum line, and then the skin there of the side of the mouth all has like a nice pinkish tone, nice gloss coat added as well, giving it that nice saliva-like look. And the teeth are all painted pretty nicely. Maybe some slight sloppiness right there, but not too bad. And the jaw works really nicely. Like, you can see that definitely works quite beautifully as far as the jaw goes. And we have a nice orange coloration there for the eye with a slit-like pupil. As you begin to move back here into the neck region, you see quite a bit of like creasing and stuff going on, quite a bit of skin texture, and it looks pretty nice. We've got the throat here on the underside of the raptor. You can also see that white stripe picks up right behind the eye and leads down the course of the body, kind of similar to what you see on a Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptor. We continue to have that creasing moving down the entire course of the neck. As you lead down here into the arms, you can see some nice muscle definition leading down the arms. The elbows sculpted out right there, and some nice texturing to the skin through the course of the arms as well. The arms are, of course, articulated. They do move individually, and they move very nicely. They don't come out away from the body, only forward and back, but they work really, really nicely, like super, super smooth. And then we have those almost classic style Mattel Velociraptor hands, nice scoots down the fingers, no nail paint, unfortunately, but they kind of have a bit of a glossy look to them. You can see, though, here on the underside that yellowish tone that we see there on the lower jaw picks back up in the chest region and runs down here a little bit past the groin area before disappearing again, so we do have a little extra color variation there. And as we lead down, you can see that this white stripe continues out, but that as well ends right here in the hip region. I would have liked to have seen that run the rest of the way out, or at least closer to the rest of the way out, but unfortunately that does disappear. The transition between the yellowish tone for the underbelly, though, leading up here into the side is definitely quite smooth, and you can again see some nice looking texturing to the skin here on the side of the dinosaur. You can also see the wounds are sculpted out here on the area for the epic attack or epic damage, whatever you'd like to call that action feature right there. As you move back, you see more nice looking detailing. We can also see the Jurassic Facts app code is right here. If I could pull that up, and if you'd like to add that to your collection, there you go. So you can add the raptor to your collection. And then as you move down, you again have pretty much your traditional style of Mattel Velociraptor leg sculpt. It doesn't look too far off from what we usually see. Nice detailing throughout. You've got the kneecap and everything present, all the muscle definition present. Nice looking foot sculpt with some scoots down the toes. No, again, nail paint, but they kind of have a slight sort of a glossy shine. Not too much, but a little bit, kind of insinuating nail paint. We do have dew claws and everything present back there. And then, of course, the legs do also articulate, and they move pretty nicely forward and back. They as well, though, don't come out away from the body, so that's one thing that Mattel has ditched when it comes to these smaller Epic Attack figures compared to a lot of older releases, although I think the Velociraptors never really had that going on. They never really had the legs moving out away from the body like a lot of figures do, as far as I can recall anyway. And then you lead out into the tail, and again, at this point, we only have the grayish tone. It looks like we do have a speckling. I can see a little bit right there, so we do have some darker kind of speckles through the course of the body, giving it a little extra color variation. But the skin texture looks pretty nice moving out the length of the tail. You can kind of make out the spinal column again, a little bit up there on the top. The tail ends pretty abruptly, not much of a nice point. It kind of ends with a stubby sort of a look, and again, the tail is a bit shorter than I would like on a raptor, but it's not the end of the world. On the opposing side, you're going to see pretty much the same thing, except for the positioning of the legs are slightly different. You can see the left leg is further forward, more so than the right leg, but outside of that, the arm sculpt looks pretty much the same, except mirrored. The detail, looks pretty much the same. It doesn't have its head in any sort of a weird position or anything, so it's pretty straightforward. You can see no difference in detail or paintwork. All very nicely done, no sloppiness that I'm really picking up on. The only difference otherwise would be this, area here for the sound to kind of come through and shine through. That does have that injury sort of a look. So again, it's not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, Mattel has definitely delivered better in the past. But then as you lead out into the tail, again, you can get a look at what it looks like over here from this side. So definitely a fun figure. It's not the best Raptor that Mattel has released. That is obviously for sure. But it's definitely one of the better versions of a JP3 Raptor, in my opinion. Now we're going to keep the lights kind of dim so we can see the lighting effect a little bit better. But if we push the button, I like how it lights up like that. And the lights actually go with the sounds of the raptor, which is pretty neat. So you do have, again, some pretty cool sounds. I absolutely love the fact that those lights kind of like, when you don't have the lights on, you can see it just looks like the skin texture. But when you push the lights or you push the action feature button, the lights appear and kind of light up the wound. I think somebody in the recent Carnotaurus review stated it would be cool if the lights would come on if you push the button, and then they don't come back off until you push the button again so that the injury stays on there. I agree. I think that would be absolutely awesome if they did it that way, because I think it looks really cool this way, and that's probably the only way I could really think of to improve that would be for the lights to stay on, and it would help you to have, an injury on your dinosaur for an extended period of time while you're playing with it, or if you want to display it that way. Again, I think that would be pretty cool if they did it that way, but outside of that, get the lights back on here. I still think it looks pretty cool, and I definitely am a fan of the action feature and the noises. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at about 8 inches or around 20.5 centimeters roughly. And then for a height, the highest point I would say would be the quills, about 4 inches or around 10.5 centimeters. So maybe a little over 4 inches. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our brand new Epic Attack JP3 style Velociraptor, and you can see it does have a little bit of a larger size than your average Mattel Velociraptor. Now, I don't feel like we need very many comparisons this time around, because being a Mattel Velociraptor, we've got a pretty good idea of the size, but the one comparison that we definitely want to include, probably the most important one, is, of course, a comparison with a previously released Mattel Velociraptor. Now, the one on the right is the Jurassic World Dominion Extreme Damage Velociraptor, one of my favorite raptors I would say that Mattel had released overall, and then of course our Epic Attack version here to the left. Now you can see that they're fairly similar in size, but the Epic Attack version just seems like it's bulked up a lot more. Like height-wise, you can see they're pretty much right there in the same spot, but the thickness of the body is what has been really changed, because you can see the raptor as a whole looks a lot thicker in the midsection, the head's a lot thicker and bigger. So in a way, it's a good bit larger, but it's not really taller, it doesn't really seem longer, it's just thicker as far as the body goes. So fairly similar overall in size to the older Velociraptors from Mattel, but a little bit thicker, I would say. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Epic Attack Jurassic Park 3 male Velociraptor is pretty fun. It's definitely not my favorite thing coming from Mattel right now, but it is probably one of my favorite Jurassic Park 3 Velociraptors that has been released from Mattel. Now that's not really saying much, because, they've released quite a few of them so far, and there are very few that I would say are spectacular outside of the Amber Collection male Velociraptor that they had released, but this one definitely has one of the nicest looking head sculpts when it comes to what they actually look like in Jurassic Park 3 that I've seen come from Mattel so far. And even with the thicker body, I still think it looks pretty good. Obviously not as screen accurate as it could be when it comes to the kind of slender appearance we more often see on Jurassic Park style Velociraptors, but I think, of course, they had to make them a little bit thicker to kind of give them that epic damage action feature. So, it's understandable why they did it. And I don't think it takes away too much from the figure, but there are a lot of other people that don't like that chunky sort of a look for it, that do look at it as a pretty big downside. The sculpt outside of that, though, is pretty nice. It's pretty much like your usual Mattel Raptor is. Very nice fine detail throughout. Definitely nicely sculpted as a whole when it comes to the fine detail. On top of that, we have some pretty decent paintwork, but the large majority of the paintwork lies in the head and face area. We have a lot going on there, but as you move back into the body, the paintwork definitely decreases quite a bit, as we only really have the grayish tone. We have that white stripe that leads down into the hip region, and you have a little area of that yellowish tone on the underside of the dinosaur, and that's really about it. We don't have any nail paint. We don't have paint running out onto the tail. We do have a little bit of speckling going on like Mattel likes to include, which I am a big fan of, so there is that going for it. But on top of that, we also have a very nice epic attack feature to this one, or epic damage, because it's the damage that's not really attacking, but the damage itself looks really cool. Again, I love the fact that it's kind of disguised in the body until you push that button. It doesn't look super out of place or obnoxious having that button on the side. They did a good job as far as creating this action feature where it looks nice, except for the fact that we have the open wounds on the opposing side of the body. That is a little bit of an eyesore, but at the same time, at least they sculpted it out to look like actual injuries rather than just random lines on the side of the figure. So Mattel did do a good job kind of creating this with what they had. They had to put that area somewhere. The raptors are a bit smaller than you saw in the Carnotaurus, so they kind of needed that area to allow the sound to escape. So I think they did a decent job as far as the way they went about putting that on there. And again, like I said, as far as the actual epic attack or epic damage feature goes, I love the fact that it looks like the skin texture until you push the button and then it lights up. And we also have some pretty cool noises and some pretty cool articulation. Not a lot though. It's pretty weird to have a Mattel Velociraptor without neck articulation, because that is one thing we've usually always had. But, a little less articulation, a little bit less appealing as far as the appearance goes compared to your average raptor, but we do have a pretty cool action feature to sort of make up for that. So again, it's kind of hit or miss. You may love it, you may hate it. I definitely like this one. So if you are interested, head to your local Walmart, because that's where I found mine. Hopefully it'll show up very, very soon if it's not there already. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.